Hi everyone, today we're going to look at another key quote from the play Macbeth. Please copy down your lesson objective, which is to explain what we can infer when Macbeth and Lady Macbeth say, "All great Neptune's ocean and a little water clears us." We have a big list of versatile vocabulary we can use today. Please don't be intimidated by how many words we have here. These are just the ones that you might choose to use in your application task, because there's so much we can talk about in our quotes today. So your new words that you looked at today, which are superficial and conscience, are very important. But we also have vulnerable and secure, rational and emotional, permanent and ephemeral, internal and external, manifestation, consequences, and damnation. Please copy these down, and if you want to pause the recording to look up the meaning of any of those words, that would be a great idea. So, our quote for today is from Act 2, Scene 2 of Macbeth. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are covered in blood after the murder of Duncan. And first we will look at Macbeth's line, "Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean?" This is the first part of the quote. So, in this line, he is invoking the Roman and pagan god Neptune, the god of the ocean. And this is very, very important, because up to now we've assumed that these characters are Christian, and perhaps the act of murdering King Duncan means that Macbeth no longer sees himself as a Christian. He's done something so terrible he can't turn to the Christian God anymore. He has to turn to an older and perhaps more brutal god in Neptune. So it shows us a move away for Macbeth from a Christian world that he's been living in to the pagan world, which is more brutal, or at least the contemporary audience would have seen that as more brutal. And this idea that he needs to use Neptune's ocean to cleanse his sins is a contrast with the Christian baptism. In baptism, we're using water to cleanse people of their sins, but we're usually invoking the Christian God. Here, Macbeth is turning to a pagan god, again, maybe because of his guilt at the act of murder that he has just taken part in. He feels he can no longer turn to the Christian God for help. So the word ocean is also really important here. Macbeth realises that his crime is so vast, so awful, that he needs a whole ocean to cleanse it for himself. And he also needs intervention from the gods. He's not able to get over the guilt and wash away this sin on his own. And we can see from the way this line is written with will at the start that it's a question. Macbeth is questioning whether this guilt will ever be removed. Will he ever be able to live a normal life again, or will this guilt follow him forever? This is in very stark contrast to the way Lady Macbeth reacts to what has just happened. Her line is very different. I can move my paper, apologies. Her line is, "A little water clears us of the deed." So Lady Macbeth is using a euphemism here. She's making what happened seem less serious. She says deed instead of murder, and she says a little water instead of Macbeth's ocean. So we can see that again, Lady Macbeth is more practical. These opening acts of the play, Act 1 and Act 2 especially, we see that Lady Macbeth is really going against the traditional gender roles that we would expect in a relationship. Macbeth is the emotional one who's talking about a whole ocean being needed to wash his blood clean, whereas Lady Macbeth is trying to be more rational. A little water is all that's needed. But she's also talking about cleansing, just as Macbeth did. He wanted water to wash the blood away. And she's saying the same. She's just saying that less is needed. It might also show us that if only a little water is needed, Lady Macbeth is currently only feeling a little guilt. We can see later in the play that this isn't the case. Perhaps Lady Macbeth is just trying to lie to herself that she hasn't done something terrible. She only feels a little guilt. With this sentence, she's also trying to soothe and support Macbeth. Perhaps she doesn't really believe that a little water will make this crime go away, but she can see that Macbeth is extremely emotional in this moment, and she wants to support him and help him. And as we've already pointed out, the word deed is extremely important. She doesn't say murder. She can't bring herself to say what they've actually done, so she hides it with this euphemism. Perhaps this shows the reader and the audience that she does feel the same amount of guilt, this huge weight of guilt that Macbeth does. She's just able to hide it in the moment an awful lot better. So, please pause the video and copy out all of these notes, and then we'll move on to using our versatile vocabulary in an application task.